So we're live.
We are.
It's it's the third movie of our sci-fi festival,
It is. It is our romantic Friday movie.
and I this movie is so romantic.
It really is. And it's tragic and it's sci-fi.
It's sci-fi and it's tragic, just the way you like it.
Yes.
And I enjoy that. I have great big love for this movie, as you know.
Yes, I know.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your sommelier of cinema, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and I am here with my lovely compatriot.
Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell. I am the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the enchantress of entertainment.
You know, I think I forgot my name. I forgot to say my name is Robert Meyer Burnett. And we are here for WINEning About Movies episode number 44. Can you believe we've done 44 of these?
That's
a show that
crazy.
was born out of a pandemic, and we're still going.
We're still going.
We're still sheltering at the Robservatory.
Well, you know, there's so many movies to watch. We could go on forever.
We literally could go on forever.
Yeah.
Well, at least for years. Maybe not forever. Decades, really.
Well, I mean, you know.
If we did 3 movies a week, I mean, we could till we're dead, probably.
Till we're dead.
Yes. Well, tonight's movie is a very special movie. I really have great love and fondness and respect for this film.
Yes.
But before we discuss exactly what the movie is, I bet you all want to know what we are drinking.
Haha.
We are drinking Love Noir from 2018. Another Pinot Noir. Love Noir.
Yes,
There you go.
Love for Romantic Friday.
Love for Romantic Friday. Why don't you give me your glass and I'll pour you up some love.
Pour me up some love, babe.
And this is to Mark Romanek's third feature film. The last feature film he directed 10 years ago. And let me get this right, because I always mess up the name. It is based on, if I mispronounce his name, Kazuo Ishiguro. It's hang on. Kazuo Ishiguro. I can't get the first name right. But for those of you who don't know, the same gentleman, Ishiguro, also wrote The Remains of the Day. And yes, which is another fantastic film that we should do for a Romantic Friday.
Oh my God, yes, we should.
Now, this movie was also written by Alex Garland, based on Ishiguro's book, and Garland was able to get the rights or convince Ishiguro to give him the rights because they were friends before the book was even published.
Yes, he loved it so much.
He loved it so much. So, Mark Romanek's Never Let Me Go from 2010. Let's drink to that.
Let's drink to that.
Cheers. That's lovely. That's a Love Noir.
That is.
I was not expecting it to be chilled.
I did chill it because it's so hot.
You chilled it.
I put everything in the fridge.
Everything in the fridge. We've also got some other lovely stuff
yes,
here, do we not?
we were sent a lovely package.
We were sent a lovely package. Claude and Candida sent us. We've been digging into this before we went on. We got cheese, Gruyere,
some Gruyere. And almonds and olives. Yes.
Yes, it's always nice.
It's so nice to have
So let's drink to Claude and Candida.
little snacks to eat with.
They are, of course, for those of you who watch the Burnettwork, there's Jacob Fudge's comic book store, Comic Relief, and then there's Claude and Candida, the official couple of the Burnettwork. So cheers to them, and to their son, too.
Yes, Spencer.
Spencer also gets cheers. So, Elizabeth, what is this movie about? What is Never Let Me Go about? It's a very, very interesting film that thematically, it covers some of the same ground that we've sort of been dealing with.
Yes.
And what would you say this movie's about?
This movie is set in the past, which is what I love about it.
It starts out in 1978.
Yes, in 1978.
But it is an alternate reality.
It is.
It is not our reality.
It is an alternate reality, and you start off at a boarding school.
Right, but the movie starts out with a little text card.
Right.
That say in the early 50s there is a medical breakthrough that has occurred that has allowed human life the life expectancy for human beings is now beyond 100 years of age. But they don't really explain what that breakthrough is.
Right. Right.
So it begins at a boarding school, Helsham.
Yes, Helsham, the boarding school, and very British old boarding school feeling to it. The colors are just amazing.
Very muted, pastel-y.
Very muted. Yeah, it feels like a very English countryside. And it's these children, and they're at this school. And what is the first scene? They're playing. Is it they're playing outside?
Well, you kind of get their whole day. I mean, they play outside. They are being addressed. Charlotte Rampling is the headmistress of the school. And anything that Charlotte Rampling is in is immediately, it goes up to another level. We'll see her in Dune, hopefully this year.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
She's the leader of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood.
Oh, very cool.
So, and I mean, the casting in this movie is amazing.
The cast is...
It's amazing. And the cinematography by Adam Kimmel is absolutely... This film, Mark Romanek, he directed some of the great music videos. He directed a video for Jay-Z. He directed Madonna's Rain. He directed Johnny Cash singing Hurt, Nine Inch Nails song Hurt.
Wow.
I mean, he incredible visionary, and he had studied in college both photography and filmmaking. So not only is he an exquisite visual stylist, but I mean his sense of color, his sense of composition. This film is exquisitely beautiful to look at.
It's so beautiful. It's like a piece of art.
It is a piece of art. Every shot.
Yeah.
Every single shot in this film is perfect.
Yeah.
And I have to say that Rachel Portman's score for this movie it's one of my favorite scores of the last 20 years. The music is absolutely gorgeous, and
combined with the visuals, I mean,
truly, this movie is sublime in every way. From the craft point of view, this film is impeccable.
I hope all of you have watched it before the show, so that you know what we're talking about. And if you haven't watched it, please, please, please see this.
Yeah, I don't encourage this, but I would dip out of this chat now live. Come back to it after you've seen the film, because there are some things to discover in this movie that if you don't know what it's about,
and we will spoil. So
this movie is going to be spoiled. So at this boarding school,
yes,
we meet our three central protagonists.
Yes, we do.
And our three central protagonists are
Kathy
H, Ruth C, and Tommy D.
Yes, so all the children have a letter as their last name.
And we should stress that there are no parents.
There are no parents. It's just kids, almost like an orphanage. And these kids are very obedient. They're very compliant. And they end up, they do a lot of art. They have an art class.
They're very active. They have sports, and they have
sports, but everyone is so good.
And what's really
well behaved.
There are very interesting details about this boarding school. Like the kids, even though it's the late 70s, they're basically wearing barcodes around their wrists.
They have a bracelet, and every time they enter or exit, they have to
swipe.
They have to swipe.
They get counted.
And
it's very interesting. It seems like almost time has frozen in this place. There's no sense necessarily of the outside world.
Yeah.
There's no television. There's no radio. And sometimes they do have movie nights.
Right.
Where
show them movies.
There's an old British movie they're watching from the 50s.
Yeah.
There's this sense that, in a way, time has stood still.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids believe they should never leave the grounds of the school.
Right. At one point, they're playing ball, and the ball ends up going across the fence, and only just across the fence, and none of them venture out to get the ball.
And one
of their teachers,
Miss Lucy,
she questions that. She's like, why didn't Tommy go get the ball? And Ruth says, oh, well, we can't go out there. And the teacher's like, but it was right outside the gate.
And there's been stories that the last kid who went outside the gate was caught by some malevolent force. His hands and feet were cut off, and he was tied to a tree.
He was tied to a tree in the forest. And then one girl went outside the front gate, and they wouldn't let her back in, and she starved out there. And the teacher's like, how do you know those stories are true? And the girls there were like, well, of course they're true. Everybody knows that.
Who would make up stories that were like that?
Yeah, who would make that up?
Logical. And so the movie is basically told through Kathy H's, an older Kathy H, who is played by, of course, Carey Mulligan. She's narrating this, so it's her remembrances of being a Hailsham and everything.
Yes.
And Kathy H and Tommy D, they love each other. Kathy H is always looking out for Tommy. Tommy's a very sensitive, emotional kid. He's prone to...
He has his fits of anger. An anxious boy. And Kathy is very nurturing. She's a very sweet, nurturing girl. And then she has her best friend, Ruth, who is very chatty and outgoing and a little jealous. Yeah.
Because Tommy and Kathy clearly have a deep connection.
When she starts noticing that Kathy and Tommy have this connection, she gets a little jealous. And she inserts herself in the middle. Yeah.
And
so
there's something, there's just something, there's all of these little details. There's something off.
Yes, and it's very weird. These children are so, like, compliant.
They're so compliant, and they seem to be somewhat naive about the ways of the world.
Naive.
But yet they'll have frank conversations about sex with one another. Like, that's not something that necessarily seems to be taboo. And also, whenever there are adults, and there's a very few group of adults that we see that are outside, that are not part of the school, whenever we see them...
deliveries of food or whatever.
The adults seem very uncomfortable.
Yes.
Coming to this school.
They're very uncomfortable. So, so these kids do a lot of art in their art class, and every week they have, they choose pieces to put in the gallery.
In this gallery.
And it's very exciting for them to be chosen to be in the gallery.
Madame.
Yes.
There is a woman named Madame whose gallery
a
they
French
want.
lady. She comes in,
and there's one scene where she does come in, and all the kids are like waiting for her on the porch of Hailsham out front. And as Madame is coming in, she's not smiling and greeting the kids. It's like it's all she can do to contain her. Clearly, she's incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Passing by these kids, and you're wondering, like, why is she so uncomfortable?
Right.
And Tommy really wants to put something in the gallery, but he's made fun of
his drawings. The kids make fun of his drawings, and he's never chosen to be in the gallery.
Whereas everyone else, Kathy H has gallery stuff. The other kids do.
Kathy has a lot of things in the gallery. Very creative. And then also they collect tokens for good behavior, and they have these things called, I don't even know what it's called.
Well, it's like a sale.
They have a sale.
And the kids, it's like the center of their life. It's a big social event. It's a big thing. And they're told at one point that the new sale that's coming up, there's a bumper crop of stuff to buy. It's a bumper crop. And
these men deliver these boxes.
These cardboard boxes, and these guys.
Beat up boxes.
These guys are like, they clearly don't want to be here.
They're very nervous and like uncomfortable.
And one of the girls says, "So it is a bumper crop?" And he's like, "Yes, lady, it's a bumper.
It's a bumper crop."
It's like they're like, and they can't get out of there fast enough.
Yeah. So they bring in these things and they place these items on these tables, and it's all broken toys and broken clothing and just like junk.
Yeah, it's like the worst stuff you'd find at a thrift store.
But they're just so excited to be able to spend their tokens on
so
this
excited.
Stuff. And all the kids are in there. They're excited. They're finding what they want. And Kathy goes in there and she just wanders through the tables and she doesn't really find anything. And so she goes outside and she sits on a bench. And Tommy notices that and he comes out and he's like, if you don't have enough tokens, I'll give you my tokens. And she's like, no, I'm going to wait till it clears out and see if there's anything else left good. And he's like, well, I got you something. And he gives her a cassette tape. And he's like, I don't know what it is, but I got this for you. And she takes her cassette tape and she goes to her room and puts it in a tape player and listens to it, and it's a love song.
Never Let Me Go.
Never Let Me Go.
The titular song.
Yes. And she's kind of swaying and listening to the music and really enjoying it. And then she feels somebody watching her and she turns around and it's Ruth. And I think at that moment, that's when Ruth realizes the connection between Tommy and
yes.
Kathy and becomes jealous.
Becomes very jealous.
So then Ruth, at one of their assemblies, she stands next to Tommy and she holds his hand. And Kathy sees this and she's devastated. And then later on she sees them in the garden and
Ruth has made her move.
Ruth kisses Tommy. And then after that, Tommy and Ruth stay together their entire childhood. And then these kids, they matriculate. They're
well
18.
Before we see them, you know, they've grown up. So it goes from 78. It's now 1985. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is they're graduating. Same year I graduated. So maybe I have a connection to this movie. I don't know. Maybe that's why I like it so much. So, and as they're played by these great child actors, but now it's Carey Mulligan, Keira Knightley, and Andrew Garfield.
The kid actors, I have to say, were amazing.
Yeah, the kid actors, Isabel Markle Small and Ella Purnell and Charlie Rowe as the young
kids. And then what we learned after when we watched the documentary is that the director had the adult actors play the roles of the children so the children could see them play the roles, and then the children played those roles.
Yeah.
And he did that for two reasons, so that the kids could see so that the characters remained fluid, like it was like one person, so they could act the way the adult actors acted, but also so that the adult actors would have the memory, almost like a childhood memory of doing those things.
Yeah, yes. There's a great scene that we skipped when they're younger, where Sally Hawkins as Miss Lucy.
Well, this is like one of the main
one day she comes in and she's addressing the class, all of our main characters, and she basically says it's very weird. She's not talking necessarily directly, but she's trying to appeal to them, and she says, you know, most people get to grow up and they're going to be different things. They're going to be race car drivers, and they're going to be whatever you want to be when you grow up, but you're not going to be that. You're not going to be.
Your future is already determined.
Your future is already determined, and your short lives, you won't be any of those things. And you can tell that Miss Miss Lucy is very upset. She's very broken up, and she's been sort of friends with them, and the kids like her a lot, and she's been open and a confidant of theirs, and she tells them these things, and she's trying to explain something to them, and the kids they don't really get what she's saying.
Yeah.
Because they don't quite understand something. And we don't know what it is, and then we find out that Miss Lucy is gone from the school. Charlotte Rampling gets up at the assembly and says...
You should say what the rest of what she says is.
Well, what is the rest of what she says?
So she says, as you reach adulthood, you will start donating your organs.
She doesn't say she doesn't say organs.
She does.
No, she just says you'll start making your donations. She never says what that is.
Nope, she does say organs.
No, she does not say that. She does not say it. They never even say that in the movie. They never say the word organ donations.
Well, you need to go back and watch it.
I've seen this movie she does not. She just says donations. That's part of this. They keep this mystery going. You don't know. As a matter of fact, they only refer to one organ in the entire movie. one organ, and Ruth says it later.
I'm going to watch it again because I'm pretty sure she says you're going to donate your organs.
She does not say that. She says donations. And that's why that you don't know what's happening. You don't know. They keep this mystery going. If she were to say you're going to donate your organs, then the jig would be up. She never says that because you don't know. And the kids never say it either. They never use the word organs. People will grow up to be donors or carers. They never say organs.
Anyway, then she continues and says, "You will complete.
You will complete.
You will donate until you complete at a very young age."
That's what she says.
She does say organs.
She does not. She doesn't. I mean, why don't? She doesn't say organs. The whole point of the way this movie is carefully structured is they never tell you what it means. They never say that. If they had said organs, it would have been, the jig would have been up. It's still a mystery. It's still a mystery.
Let's move on and not argue about that.
I'm right, though.
We'll see.
So, then it cuts to them older, and they matriculate from the school, and they get out of Hailsham, and they go to what's called the cottages, which is where they can just live. You know, you get this sense, I mean...
Well, Kathy explains that they're sent all over. They're sent all over the country, and
wherever they want to go.
No, I don't think they get to choose.
I think they get to choose. They somehow.
I don't think they get to choose. They're just sent out all over. There's these places that they're sent out to live out the next portion of their lives, and they end up at the cottages. And Hailsham is not the only school that raises these children.
Right.
There's schools all over England that have these.
But the kids,
donors.
The kids, when they meet these other kids, when Kathy H. Ruth C. and Tommy D. meet these other kids are more worldly than they are. They've been at the cottages for a long time. They know a lot of things, and there's this great scene where, for the very first time, they're all watching television together. They're watching this sitcom, and the older kids, or the kids that have been there, are laughing. And Kathy, Tommy, and Ruth keeps looking around. She doesn't get it at all. She doesn't understand the humor, and they're all looking around. They're trying to figure out what's going on. You realize that there's an incredible disparity of understanding of all of this stuff.
Yeah, they were very sheltered at Hailsham.
Very sheltered.
Kind of like how I grew up.
And then also you realize that it's pretty frank about sexuality. The kids they're sleeping together. There's this other Domhnall Gleeson, who we see in Alex Garland's Ex Machina from. It's weird. When you picked this.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't realize how close this was to Ex Machina, our last movie. Alex Garland, who wrote and directed Ex Machina, wrote this movie. Was the only executive producer of this film, and of course Domhnall Gleeson is in this movie as well. He's one half of a couple they meet at the cottages.
Yes.
And at the cottages, they are, they're trying to figure out the world and things like that.
Yeah, and now they're older, so now it's Carey Mulligan and Keira Knightley, and what's the guy's name?
Andrew Garfield.
Yes. So, and they picked kids that looked, oh my goodness,
no, it was great.
Like them.
And Tommy and Kathy H., they still have a bond. They still love one another.
They do. Ruth and Tommy are still together.
They're together. They're a couple.
And Ruth loves to kind of put it in Kathy's face. So they'll be having sex with the door open. And Kathy, she gets increasingly more annoyed. And and after they watch that episode on TV, she notices that Ruth squeezes Tommy's shoulder when they're making dinner, and that was something that happened in the show that they were watching, and so she questions her when they're doing the dishes.
Well, they're looking at the outside world. This is so emulating television for her is something new, and this is behavior.
And Kathy is so annoyed. She's like, "Why did you do that? Why are you copying that TV show?"
And then another thing that pays off later is Kathy finds these pornographic magazines.
Wait, I think the scene about Keira Knightley finding her original comes first.
That comes later.
After, okay.
Yeah. So and it's interesting because there's this scene where Tommy finds Kathy looking at these pornographic magazines, but Kathy's not like using them to get herself off. She's she can't turn the pages fast enough. And it's odd, and Andrew Garfield, Tommy's like, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. You're not getting the pleasure out of this. And she's, it's kind of very strange.
It's a weird scene.
And then later, Domhnall Gleeson and his girlfriend, turns out they might have found.
They come back from going out to town, and they come back and they tell Ruth that they saw her original. And she's like, or she comes to tell Kathy that they found her original, and she would like Kathy to come with her to go see if it's really her.
So they go on a road trip for the first time. They've never been out into the world other than where they're supposed to be. So our three characters get in a car.
They go to town.
And they go to this beautiful like oceanfront or beach. It's an oceanfront, but it's a beach town, beautiful beach town. And they go and they look in this
it's a travel agency.
Innocuous travel agency, and they see a woman.
They're looking in the window, and they're trying to find her. They're all like this on the glass. And they see a woman from the back, and Ruth says that's her. And then the people notice that they're looking, and they kind of point, and the woman turns around, and it's not her at all.
Yeah, it's not her at all. But the interesting thing is, then they go onto the beach to talk about this, and Keira Knightley, Ruth.
Yeah, Tommy says, "Well, it was a close. She looked like you a lot," and then Ruth loses it. She's like, "She didn't look anything like me."
And Ruth says, "We're patterned after garbage."
Yeah, we're trash.
We're
patterned after trash. We're patterned after the hobos that live under the bridge and the whores and the And she's going on and on about how they're patterned after trash.
And what you begin to realize in the movie is that these kids, and you realize why all the adults feel revulsion. And because I
don't think it's revulsion. I think it's just discomfort.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's revulsion because you get that at the end. I mean, it is so. These kids are the medical solution they came up with in 1952. They're clones. And they are born and bred to donate their organs, to be donors and carers, to keep the population
living a long time.
Non-clones, but they never say the word clones. I think they say it. Maybe they don't say it at all.
They don't say it.
They never say it. Just like they don't say organs. They just talk about donation. They don't even say donors. They say you're making your donations, and then you're a donor and you're a carer, and they know, and you start to realize that these kids are going to make, and you can make 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 donations of your organs, and then your life is over.
Yeah, but some people complete after their first donation.
And completion means you die. And it really starts to come into play. And the thing I love about this is they don't make a big deal about it. You're really seeing their lives from their perspective.
They've accepted their lot in life. Like they know
what they are and what they do. That's
they have to do.
And now we also find out from Domhnall Gleeson that some of these people believe that Hailsham is a special school, and that they think if you are really in love and you can prove it, that these clones, these donors, can get deferrals if they have true love
for 3 or 4 years.
For 3 or 4 years, so they
don't have to start donating.
They can love and have a relationship. They can just be together. They don't even think about. They never talk about the future. They never talk about having kids. That is not even part of their reality. Mm-hmm. They've accepted their fate. And what? Well, go ahead. Sorry.
So they question the kids from Hailsham. Is this true? Can we get a deferral? Who do we approach to ask for this deferral? And they're sitting there and they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. And they get upset, like, what do you mean? And we've never, there's lots of stories about Hailsham, but none of them are really true.
Right.
And so they're very disappointed.
Yeah, they're very disappointed, and Hailsham has this and what's interesting, what we found on the Blu-ray, by the way, on this Blu-ray, part of my collection, and when we were going through it, there are posters and things that you don't see in the movie.
Yeah.
But Hailsham has a different approach to these children. And their approach to these kids is that these kids, while they're on the planet, while they're alive, can still have a vibrant, great life. And this school is a different approach to these kids.
Yeah.
And they're keeping them. That's why they're keeping them healthy, and they encourage art and
they're
sports.
very well treated at
They're
Hailsham.
very well treated.
But apparently at other schools, it's not so nice.
No, the kids are not treated well. Now, this is something that's really interesting. You don't know this in the finished film, but it was really interesting on the Blu-ray going through. I don't know why I'd never gone through this special feature, but they have like posters as if Hailsham was a political hot potato. And it's they want donations from people, make sure that these kids, that these clones are well taken care of so they have good lives before they start their donations.
Right.
Now, that wasn't in the finished film, but it's interesting. It informs the movie. You just don't know it. A lot of this movie is very sort of oblique.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't, and that's one of the things I love about it.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it jumps ahead.
Yes, and then
It jumps ahead to 19.
well, but then Kathy, before it does that, Kathy applies to be a carer, which a carer is someone who supports the donors. So she'll go and meet her donor at the hospital, and she will, bring them what they need and just be there to support them. And she loves her job, and she does that.
Well, she applies, and then we jump ahead 9 years.
Right. So, but before that happens, they do mention that at some point Tommy and Ruth break up. But by then, Kathy is enjoying her job as a carer, and they kind of split up at that point. And for 9 years,
Yeah.
Kathy is a carer, and she has not seen her friends at all.
And then
one day she meets one of her donors at the hospital, and as she's talking, that donor ends up completing. And as she's talking to the nurse, signing the papers or whatever, she notices on the computer a picture of Ruth. And so she asks, the nurse is like, well, do you know her? And she's like, yes, I grew up with her. And she's like, this is her second donation, or her second donation, and she's more frail than we thought.
Not doing well.
And so then Kathy goes to see her in her room, and she goes, and Ruth is surprised, and
she's not in good shape.
She's kind of a mess. She's using a walker, and she's not well.
And she tells Kathy that she's been dreaming of seeing her again.
She's been dreaming of seeing her.
She really hoped that they could see one another again.
Yes, she wanted to see her, and then Kathy asks about Tommy, and Ruth says that Tommy has done 2 donations also, but that he's doing very well.
As if he only did 1 donation.
Yes. So then she says that I wish that we could just take a little trip together. And Kathy says, well, where would we go? And she's like, I don't care. I just want to take a trip with you. And so then I guess they decide to go and see Tommy.
They do. They're going to go to the beach.
Yes, so they go.
And where they're going is close to where Tommy is.
Right.
And Ruth has kind of engineered this.
She has finagled this. So they drive to where Tommy is, near the beach, and they pick him up at the hospital, and he's so happy to see them both. And they drive to the beach, and
there's a boat.
There's an abandoned tugboat on the beach,
on the sand, and it's a great image.
It is.
I mean, this just vast empty
it's
beach.
It's just so beautiful. Everything about this film.
Yeah, the film is
just
incredible.
Beautiful.
It's incredibly beautiful, and they go there, and Tommy seems to be happy, and
they help Ruth onto the beach because she's not,
And then and they have a good day, but at the end, they're still on the beach, And Ruth reveals something to them.
She does. She feels guilty for having gotten in between them, and
she admits, I purposely got in between the two of you.
Yeah, that she was jealous and that their love was more pure than Ruth and Tommy. So she feels really, really bad about it, and she wants to make it up to them.
Make amends somehow.
Make amends. She wants to make it right.
And Andrew Garfield's great. He goes, well, it's a little too late now.
It's a little late. And she's like, no, I can fix this. And she's like, I got the address of the madam. Madame, and you can go and see her and ask for the deferral, because your love is true love.
Right, your love is true love, and maybe you can get a few more years.
A few more years together.
Even though Tommy's already made 2 donations.
Yeah. So Tommy takes the paper with the address on it. And then later on, Kathy goes to investigate, and sure enough, the address is correct. It's absolutely right. That is where Madame lives. And so she tells Tommy. And then Tommy reveals his theory about the galleries. Why did they have gallery showings at their school? Why was that such an important part?
Why did they want us to do art at Hailsham?
Yeah, why was that an important part? And so his theory is that they wanted to collect information on these children to see into their souls.
Yes, the art was a window to their souls.
It was a window to their souls. So it was information that they could gather and that they still had to prove if any of them came to them to ask for deferrals because they were in love, that they would have proof that these children, that these people had a soul.
Right, if they have, the purity of their souls.
The purity of their soul.
Yeah, if they could see if they had soul, the purity of their souls, then if there was true love there, this artwork would lead them to be able to give deferrals, proof.
Proof that they deserved the deferral. So, and then he also reveals that because he didn't get to show at all in the gallery, so for years and years and years, he's been drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing so that he would have proof that, he was worthy.
Yes.
And so he shows his drawings to Kathy.
And Kathy thinks they're wonderful, and they gather up these drawings.
They gather up the drawings, and then they go to see Madame.
Madame, who also they live close to the beach, probably the same place, around the same area. And they go to see Madame, and they go to her, and she's working in her garden outside.
She's gardening in her heels.
And with much trepidation, they go out, they talk to her.
She's like kind of shocked when she sees them.
She's completely shocked, but she invites them inside.
And they're like, we don't mean any ill will. We just want to talk to you.
We just want to talk to you. And they make their plea. They tell Madame about the fact they've heard about these deferrals. Here's Tommy's artwork.
They're in love. Here's his artwork to prove. And he tells his theory about the galleries. And she's just like, oh, well... There is no divorce.
Well, no, she doesn't.
She says the galleries were not. The galleries were not. Or I don't even know what she
doesn't say. What happens is, then you hear another voice, and it's Charlotte Rampling, and she comes out, and clearly Madame and her are a couple. They live together. Charlotte Rampling's older now, obviously, and she's in a wheelchair, and she comes out to lay down to explain what was up.
Yeah.
And she says that. Basically, there are no deferrals. Hailsham was a special school, and then the kicker comes.
Yeah.
There are 2 moments that are in these scenes that every time I see this movie, I saw this movie by myself in the theater the night it opened, and this movie destroyed me when I saw it. I mean, I went by myself, and I was at the ArcLight in Hollywood, one of my favorite theaters, and there's a bar there, and afterwards. I mean, I had like 4 double Jamesons after I saw this movie at the bar. I was like, oh my God. So, she basically says, the reason that we wanted to have the gallery was not to look into your souls. It was to see if you had souls at all.
Yes.
And it's just, and what's amazing is Tommy is trying to come to grips with this, but Kathy, who is now world weary and knows, she gets it. She totally
gets it.
understands. Tommy is still naive and innocent, and so is Ruth. But Kathy H knows the world. She understands what's happening, and there's a scene that it's so beautifully played. It's done in 2 shots. There's Madame and Charlotte Rampling. When it cuts out to a 2-shot, it's done at the perfect time, and you're just going, oh my God, because you're seeing them come to grips in the reverse with the 2-shot of Kathy and with Tommy, and Tommy's trying to come to grips with all this, and Kathy's just kind of nodding because she understands. It is heartbreaking.
It
mean,
is.
It's absolutely, you just sit there and you're like, oh
and
my God.
she's like, I get it. And she's like, Tommy, there are no deferrals.
There are no deferrals. There never were deferrals.
Yeah.
And maybe they floated that myth out there to keep kids in line. You never know.
Well, they didn't. And then they end up saying, we used to get quite a few couples a year that would come.
Right.
And it's been a while since we've had any. And then Madame feels so bad. She's like, well, I would love to keep your drawings. But he's just so upset that he rolls up his drawings.
He's like, yo, bitch, you ain't taking my drawings. And he rolls them up and he's clearly just shaking. And then Madame walks them out.
Yes.
And Tommy goes and gets in the car. And this is the other moment. This moment just fucking kills me when I see this movie. It kills me every time. I've seen this movie like 15 times. It kills me. And Madame touches Kathy's face, and she says, you poor creatures. And it just, if there was any doubt that these characters, that the rest of humanity looks upon these clones as not human, and you realize if you hadn't got it yet, they are subhuman. They're less than human. All they are is organ donors that aren't God's creatures. They don't have souls. They're trying to be in their ability to be humane, and yet we know these, just like Cylons, just like replicants, and any of these manufactured people.
Yes.
Of course they have souls. Of course they have souls.
Yes.
And whether you're watching Parts the Clonus Horror, whether you're watching Michael Bay's The Island, I mean, we've seen this dealt with before in very histrionic ways. This is so poetic, and it's done, and it just, and then as they're driving home, they have to stop the car, and Tommy, who's now an adult, he's donated twice. What happens? What is it? What?
So he asks her to stop the car, and he gets out of the car, and he screams. And this scene is so heart-wrenching. This is where I bawl every single time.
And it's back to when he was a kid, when he would have these temper tantrums when he was...
Yeah, and he just screams this just insane pain just comes out of him. And Kathy, like, grabs him and holds him, and it's a heart-wrenching scene. I cry.
And also, at this point, Kathy and Tommy have become lovers, finally.
Yes.
They are lovers, and Kathy is going to be Tommy's carer. And then...
yes. And then you see her, he's going to donate again.
By the way, Ruth passes away.
Ruth passed away.
Ruth donates her liver.
Her liver.
And passes away.
Yeah.
And then Kathy takes care of Tommy, and then he donates.
Yes, and he's donating, and you see that she's standing watching in the surgery room from behind a glass window, and he smiles at her, and she smiles at him, and they give him anesthesia, and then he falls asleep.
And that's it for him.
Heart-wrenching.
It's just, it's heart-wrenching. And
oh my God.
And then the final scene of the movie is Kathy H. is sitting by this sort of beautiful, it's this unbelievably beautiful shot. The sun is setting, there are fields, and she's standing by a barbed wire fence where there are plastic, like detritus, plastic bags have caught on the barbed wire over the years, and they're kind of blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
And she's just looking, and she gives this soliloquy, this speech.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best, and it's not necessarily something we haven't heard in movies before, especially science fiction films or fantasy films, but she talks about everybody completes.
Yeah, she's like, I don't think we're much different
We're
than
not.
the people we save, the people that we
You're just prolonging. I mean, the people that we're
we
saving,
all
they
complete.
get to. We all complete, and that's the last line in the movie. We all complete, and it's what's important is to love and to see the beauty in life and all these things, and
And
then,
yeah, she even says like we all question what it was all for.
yeah, and how much time we all want more time.
We all want more time.
We're all the same,
We're all the same.
and then the movie's over.
And then that's it.
And Rachel Portman's score, the score is amazing.
The music is
So I mean,
gorgeous.
this is truly a romantic tragedy on one.
So tragic, my favorite kind. I love those tragic, heart-wrenching, romantic tragedies.
But it's also, I think it's a great. I often say that my favorite science fiction films are the last of the modern era, are things like Gattaca, Children of Men, this film, Andaria. I know you don't like Andaria, but I love Andaria.
Wait, when was that one?
The Swedish movie with the spaceship.
Oh my god.
Oh, I love it so much.
That was too much for me.
Oh my God!
That movie.
There's never been a movie ever made that deals with
my
the
God,
cosmic,
I
the
never,
infinitude of space.
ever want to see that. That is too tragic. That is too much.
No, it's so
no,
good.
It is too bleak.
Andaria
It
is so good.
Way too bleak. Ugh,
But,
that
I
movie.
mean, what's really well? Let me ask you this. Okay, Elizabeth, what did you think of Never Let Me Go?
I love this film. I think it's a masterpiece. It is beautifully shot. It is well acted. The story is poetic. It's romantic. It's tragic. It hits every point for me.
I love this movie too because one of the things, if you read a lot of science fiction, and I do, and I've watched a lot of science fiction movies, obviously, a personal interest of mine is bioethics. And it's something, assuming we're going to survive COVID, we're going to survive global warming, our medical technology and our biotech is going to advance to the point where these are questions we are going to have to answer. We can't even deal with abortion and religion and what it all means. We'll never be able to effectively grapple. We're going to have this technology sooner rather than later. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there are clones walking around even today.
Huh.
There are bioethical problems.
Well, there are clone dogs walking around.
Of course, and the real question is, how are we going to deal with this? And a lot of these movies repeat these same themes over and over again. And it's always strange to me. I don't know why this is. But this idea that clones aren't real people.
Yeah, it's like every person in this film treats the clones as if they are not human. But I think and it's also surrounded by a lot of guilt. So when you see the people's reaction to the children, because these children are children.
They're lovely children.
They are wonderful, sweet children. And the people who are not clones, it makes them so uncomfortable because deep down they know these are children. These are human children.
Well, and also these human children are just seen as a resource. They're created.
Right, but they have to block that idea out of their mind to even be able to do those things.
Well, from the beginning they're taught that this is their lot in life. They're all the rest of
right, but what I'm saying is like the non-clones.
Oh, right.
They have to basically deny that these beings are humans.
Right. They're absolutely. And Charlotte Rampling even says when they go to see her, they're like, look, do you think people are going to go back and deal with heart disease and they're going to deal with lung disease when now we have this resource where
that's why the
real
school was
people
shut down, because they didn't want it to be proven that these are human souls, that
Right.
they have a soul, because they couldn't deal with having to go back to the way things were. I mean, they've extended their lives because they have these donors.
Well, and I also find it very interesting that this theme, even in Picard, like synthetic life, we're gonna keep synthetic life, or synthetic life is bad. I find it interesting that this theme, I mean, all the way back into the 70s with parts of the Clonus horror, whenever they're dealing with cloning, Star Trek Nemesis deals with Picard's clone. I find it interesting that this idea, replicants, human beings that are just manufactured, that they don't, this idea that they don't have souls, I find fascinating. Because I think that any sentient being, it doesn't matter where the sentient being came from. It doesn't matter whether you were manufactured like replicants. The Cylons, of course, evolved. They helped themselves evolve. The clones in this movie, the island, it's the same thing. But in the island, rich people clone themselves. And in the island, those clones are there. It's the same thing. Like these human beings, and they are human beings, are just life support systems for these organs at any one moment that are going to be removed and used. And I find the fact that this particular theme and story keeps being repeated year after year, decade after decade, to be fascinating. And this idea that we still, even in science fiction, have not come to grips. The new season of Picard, this idea of synthetic life is somehow not real life, that it has to be born. And yet, with everything else, we've gotten rid of diseases because of science. We've done all of these things, and yet this idea of people, what is it? What makes a real person? And on the other hand, you talk about in our society at large right now, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, and we still have an underclass of people. Racism and human beings have always we've had slaves for thousands of years, and they are lesser people. And it's something that, what is it about our species that finds it so easy to...
Well, I mean, I think all of it has to do with empathy and love. I mean, if you can show love to a creature, no matter what the creature is, even if it's an AI, and I believe this about children too. If you're a crappy parent, all that really, really, really matters is that your child knows that you love them. And that goes a long way. You can be the worst disciplinarian in the world, but if your child knows that you love them, you're building that empathy in them, and they grow up to be decent human beings. And I feel like, whether it's an AI or what if you loved an AI and raised it in a way, or taught it what love is? In
Ex Machina, I mean, Alex Garland is clearly, he's dealing with, if you look at Alex Garland's work, his oeuvre, as it were, he wrote the book The Beach that Danny Boyle's movie was based on, but Alex Garland got the rights to this book. He made Ex Machina, our last movie. He made Annihilation, which deals with, he's very much in tune with the human soul and what does it all mean and how deeply flawed we are. But I think you're right. I mean, we in our society, we have compartmentalized the value of life on a spectrum that we have put ourselves at the very top of.
Yeah.
The which I think is quite odd, because we live in a continuum, we live in a biosphere where we don't even understand every living creature on Earth evolved together. We are part of a biosphere. There's a reason why elephants and rhinoceroses and big cats, they're still here too. They didn't evolve. They didn't go extinct.
But even animals. I mean, look at elephants. Look how they love their young.
Well, yes, and dolphins. I mean, we still can't come to grips.
If you mistreat a dog, it's going to be a mean dog.
Well, right, but
if you love that dog, that's going to be the sweetest, kindest dog.
But why is it that human beings have a capacity to say that animal life, we treat animal life, we've treated other human beings
because
in a horrible substandard way? Like, we have the ability to do that.
The people who do that are the people who did not have that genuine, unconditional love.
No, I don't. But look. We had slavery in the United States for 300 years.
The people who are abused are the ones who were abused. It's like a cycle.
No, but it's not even that. Like, people will poach animals. They'll sell big...
Yeah, because their mothers didn't love them.
I don't think that's the only reason. I mean...
Come on, if your mother truly loves you, are you going to go and poach an animal?
Okay, as a Jew, then why is it that why do we see a whole country turn against other human beings? Adults, children, and literally not just 6 million Jews, but 6 million other people.
Yeah.
Why were human beings so easily... Whether it's the Khmer Rouge, whether it's what happened in Russia, why are human beings so able to let go of empathy and look at other beings and literally exterminate them or get rid of them by the millions?
Because I'm telling you, it all comes down to if your mother loved you or not.
It can't just be that simple, though. We as a race...
Well, it starts there, and then people get caught up and they become like sheep and they just follow. So you get one evil person and they are a strong leader and they spout off all this stuff and then people are like, oh.
Yeah, but I mean, look, we're also beholden to the natural order of life. Like, you could be as nice as you want to an elephant, but an elephant doesn't know. An elephant will still pick you up and it could trample you, but doesn't necessarily mean to, but it's the way of the jungle.
Yeah, but it's going to trample a person that's chasing it, as opposed to somebody who.
But it might not know. I mean, animals aren't as
high
functioning.
It might not know.
But
but I wouldn't say an elephant. Elephants are very intelligent.
But the real question is this society, and it's been proven time and time and time again. Enlightened societies have still had slaves. Enlightened people are still able to somehow compartmentalize.
But you're equating enlightenment with love, and that's not the same thing.
But I don't think it's just about love. I mean, in this movie, society has come to grips, our entire society, with raising clones. They've somehow said, you know what?
Yeah, and they've detached themselves from those clones. They have accepted, or they have come to believe that these creatures...
But why is
don't have a soul?
Well, right, but why?
And it's the only way that they can justify what they're doing.
Of course, but why is it that human beings can do that so easily when we know that isn't true? When we know it isn't true.
How? How can human beings do that?
I don't know.
How can we treat each other?
And I would say that one of the reasons I love this movie because, first of all, it does not. A lot of people, it did not get universally great reviews. And if you look at the reviews for this movie, a lot of people thought it was too murky. They didn't quite... I mean, if you're in touch with this, if you're a science fiction fan and you get all this stuff, I think it means a lot more than... I think a lot of people were lost.
Oh my God, really?
When I saw this movie, there were two older ladies sitting behind me.
Yeah.
And when it was over, they were so angry. Friday night, maybe they didn't get out much because their husbands or whatever. They were so angry that they had seen this movie. Yeah. They were infuriated by it.
I had the same experience when I came out of English Patient. People were so upset. And I was like, oh, that was the most beautiful film.
Well,
People hated it. They hated it.
For me, I mean, ultimately, I find this movie rather life-affirming in the sense that after everything that Kathy H. has seen, the fact that she was literally a friend of hers, an evil see you next Tuesday, basically. Ruth stole the one thing, the only real love she was going to have. She had a little bit at the end of her life.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. She loved both of them.
I know. That's what I was going to say.
And she forgave Ruth.
She forgave Ruth, and she had real love in her heart. And at the end, even though she accepted her fate, her lot in life, and
she even has empathy and love for the non-cloned people that she and her friends have to donate their organs for. She's like, we are all the same.
We're all the same.
That's because of her deep empathy and love.
But she didn't have parents. These kids didn't have parents.
No, but
they were raised by the institution.
But okay, they were, but it was still a humane place. It was like,
yes.
And they had each other. They were giving each other love.
By the way, we haven't even dipped into the comments here. People have been sending us comments. Let's go back and find out where we were at. Bob Kowal sends in a tip and says, R&B and EGB, if you go back to doing older classics, maybe a theme week at this point, you might consider The Red Shoes. I have to believe
Oh.
the Ace would love this one. It does have a
Yes.
love story. It's hard. I have the red shoes. I have the Blu-ray.
Let's do that. That
That's
sounds
a good
awesome.
one. Claudius H, like Kathy H. Claudius H said, "Never let me go. Bonjour, mon ami. The donors are human, even though they are obviously clones. It is in that society's interests to dehumanize them and treat them like
Yes.
cattle. It's easier to slaughter cattle than other human beings."
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. But what is it? Why is humanity so eager to do these things? How are they're
Because it benefits them.
Kendiana Jones says, one of two, "I don't know anything about this movie. Sorry, I just had a public shouting match in a restaurant with an idiot who tried to tell my friend's 9-year-old daughter that COVID is a conspiracy to stop Trump from getting reelected. I'm angry.
Wow.
I'm thinking Vancouver or Wellington look like great places to move to. Anyway, sorry to bring the show down. Love you both, Ken." Well, Ken, let me tell you, I lived in
that's
Wellington.
terrible.
I lived in Wellington for months at a time. It is fantastic.
Apparently not.
I love New Zealand.
Oh, to move to,
Yeah, I love New Zealand.
Yeah.
I would live there.
Oh, absolutely.
I would live in Wellington. It's
well, I don't know if they'll accept you because Europe is not accepting Americans.
yeah,
so
we're. But I'll tell you something. Isn't that crazy?
That's
and,
insane.
And please don't look up the articles that are being published that correlate people that have gone to restaurants with COVID now. It's not good.
Oh.
But thank you for supporting the channel, sir. And
Yes.
isn't it amazing? Our COVID rates are going up. Other countries are banning us from travel, and still, oh yeah, it's something not to get Trump reelected.
Yeah. Wow. It's mind-blowing what's going on.
Gerald sends in a tip and says, "The first time I became aware of Charlotte Rampling was in Swimming Pool. What can you say about this delectable thriller?"
that?
Swimming Pool, it's a French film. And
What?
oh yeah.
I have to see that.
It's great.
Oh.
Yeah, oh yeah, Swimming Pool. That's a good one. We should do
Was
that.
it before Zardoz?
No. No,
After
it was
Zardoz?
in the last 20 years, I think.
Oh, well, you need to watch
It's
Zardoz because she's in
Frances
Zardoz
Ozen?
too.
Yeah, Swimming Pool's great. Charlotte Rampling is an amazing actress. I mean, she's in one of my favorite Woody Allen movies, Stardust Memories. She's in a movie called The Night Porter, which is incredibly fucked up. She's an incredible actress.
She is.
And she plays the Reverend Mother in Dune. Ohio, yes. Can't wait to see that. She's amazing. Charlotte Rampling is amazing. And she's had an incredible career, 50-year-long career. Just amazing. Candida is here. Let's drink to Candida. We're running out of
thank you for the snacks. So wonderful. This cheese is so good. So good.
Bonjour, Elizabeth. The ace is correct. Miss Lucy actually says vital organs. She says before you are old, before you are even middle-aged, you will start to donate your vital organs. Uh-oh.
Yep. See, confirmed. Thank you, Candida. I knew she said it.
All right, I stand corrected.
Confirmed.
Desol, Robert. Maya Spencer Deep. Oh, Spencer says hello?
Oh, hello, Spencer.
I want to drink to Spencer because he
Yes.
has the Y-Wing fighter that doesn't have its cowling taken off that Steve Melchin created for Clone Wars.
That is so cool.
Our friend created that. Vital organs. All right, I'm wrong. All right. I'm wrong. What do I know? I admit
I
when
knew
I'm
I
wrong.
heard it. Thank you for confirming.
Candida Jones says, "You two are a beacon of positivity in a nasty world at a nasty time."
Yeah, it's nasty out there.
Candiana, I want to say something, though. I would recommend to everybody to read Yuval Harari's book, Sapiens. And it's basically this...
That book, yes, it's great, but it if you grew up as a Christian, it will mess you up. So
Okay, well, that being said, at the end of this book, it's a 100,000-year history of humanity. At the end of the book, he basically, his thesis is that humanity's never had it better. And despite the fact that we're going through a very divisive time, I think we're going to come out of this better people. Look, what we have going on now is dialogue about all kinds of people that needs to happen. You know, let's hope that we don't trade one oppression for another, which is what we're seeing all the time. You know, rather than moving forward together, let's oppress everybody, and that's never going to work. That will pass. Humanity is better off now than we've ever been, and I think let's hope by going through all this, the travails, the tribulations.
Well, it's like a pendulum. Like, we're way over here right now, and it will come back, and it'll, like, I live right in the middle parts. Right now, it is like way over here.
Bob Korzak sends in a tip and says, Rob, I had the theme to the Fall Guys stuck in my head all day. How do we get Netflix to revive the series and keep the same flavor? That's tough. I mean, stuntmen it's a whole different world now. It's a whole different world. I don't know. I
love that show.
Everyone, come on, man. Who doesn't love the Fall Guy? That's a very good question. I don't know. But I'm sure they're reviving everything else. Hey, if MacGyver can come back, the Fall Guy can come back. Claudius says, Ruth expresses surprise that Kathy and Tommy are actually applying for deferral. Why? Does Ruth know that defendants are just a rumor? Also, when Ruth sees Kathy for the first time in years, many emotions pass through her face. The first isn't happiness. No, it's certainly not.
Yeah, it's like surprise or.
I think she's riddled with guilt. She's guilt-ridden.
It's guilt.
I think the fact that Tom. I'll tell you what I think she's really. I think she can't believe that Tommy and Kathy, despite everything, at Tommy making donations, their love still burns brightly.
Also, I think she's surprised because Kathy still comes to see her and cares about her after everything that she has done to her. Ruth is surprised that Kathy cares.
Yes. There's also something we didn't mention.
Yes. That
Tommy actually later when Tommy talks to Kathy, he admits, I knew when you were looking at those porno mags. I knew what it was. What it was. You were looking for your.
Ruth misunderstood. Yeah. She thought you were. What did she think?
Like I don't know.
Trying to learn about sex.
But
actually, I knew exactly what you were doing. You were looking for your original.
You were looking for your original. Which is deeply sad.
Yeah, deeply sad.
Deeply sad. Sebastian Sanhueza sends in a super chat. Thank you so much. Greetings, Rob and Liz. Wanted to love this one, but the book is so much more tragic and lovely. Snobby, I know. Watched it alongside the terrific The Road. Any chance the latter adaptation could make it into the Elizabeth's roster? Wow, The Road.
Road? I don't know if I've seen that.
The Road is even more bleak than this.
Really?
Now, I have to say, there's a lot of people I've read a lot of, I love the book. And obviously, books have a lot more time to get into all of this. But I think as an adaptation of the book, the experience of reading the book is
I'm going to read the book. Do you have the book?
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
But you won't loan it to
me? No, I'll
loan
it to you.
You'll be afraid that I'll break the spine.
No, I'll loan it to you.
Wow. You guys heard that. He'll loan it to
I'll loan it to her. Look, obviously the movie, I think though for an adaptation, what this movie manages to achieve is amazing. I would put this adaptation up there with the adaptation of Shawshank Redemption in terms of, look, is Shawshank Redemption, is the movie as good as the story? Rita Hayworth, actually it's Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. It's not and the. But I would say this is a very successful adaptation of the book because obviously the book, there's a lot more going on in the book, and the way they parcel out what's happening in the book, it's much more of a shocking revelation. And yes, the book is very lyrical, and if you read the book, I mean, he's such a beautiful writer. I read The Remains of the Day after I saw the movie. I read this before I saw the movie, and wow. What a wordsmith he is. My God.
Sean M., you better behave.
Why? What do you say?
Well, now he's banned, so...
Oh. 300 seconds, though. Bob Korzak sends in a... you know what? The Road... We could talk... The Road, since we didn't bring that up, The Road is so bleak. It's a post-apocalyptic story. Yeah, I mean,
don't know. Like that Swedish movie, I never remember the name.
It's like that.
I don't. When it goes too far,
The Road goes really far.
I can't.
The Road goes really far.
That's too much.
I read that book too, and I wanted to kill myself. I mean, they literally at one point they put a infant up on a spit and they cook it.
Nope, not for me. I will never watch that.
Rob and Elizabeth says Rob Korzak. How about doing a Romantic Friday of 1970s love story? I'm curious if you've both seen it and what you thought of it.
Love Story.
Have you seen Love Story with Ali McGraw?
No.
Oh, I've seen it. Love means never having to say you're sorry. Ryan O'Neal and Ali
have not
McGraw.
seen
It's
it.
basically the story of a couple, and Ali McGraw gets terminal cancer.
Oh,
And-
tragic.
And it's interesting because Bob Evans, Paramount, interesting about Love Story is that book was developed at Paramount with the writer in conjunction that they were going to make a movie like The Godfather was. And Love Story, look, I think Love Story, it's a classic film. I haven't seen it in a while. I don't own it. I don't know if I would call it a great movie, though. It's very, well, it's melodramatic.
I don't know.
Kevin the Comic Doctor says, so happy to finally be able to tune in live.
Yay,
It's
welcome.
been over a week, too busy. Continue to stay positive and safe, you guys. I also loved The Fall Guy. Well, cheers
Yes.
to you. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Well, we're over time, Elizabeth.
How we always manage to do that.
We're over time. And before we run out of wine, we have to talk about our bottoms-up scale that we have here Claudius says, okay, how about The Lobster and the Killing of a Sacred Deer? Yorgos' movies.
I don't know the second one, but The Lobster, I love that film. And you haven't seen it
I have
yet.
not seen The Lobster. I own it.
Oh my god.
But I haven't seen
we
it.
We have to do that then. We have to do The Lobster. Thank you so much, Claudius. That is a great suggestion.
Yeah,
he has not seen
I've not seen The Lobster.
Okay, we have to do The Lobster. I love that movie. I love it.
Okay, so so for our we have a bottoms up scale for those of you who are new. Why don't you explain the bottoms up scale?
Okay, so our bottoms up scale is from 1 to 4 glasses because there are 4 glasses in a bottle of wine.
All right, Elizabeth, on a scale of 1 to 4 glasses of wine, how many glasses of wine would you give Never Let Me Go?
I will give this 4 glasses. No hesitation.
4 glasses.
I absolutely love this film. It is smart. It is tragic. It is beautiful. Oh, and by the way, the art that Tommy ends up drawing, the sketchbook and all his drawings, I actually looked up the artist that did that, and his name is Charlie Cobb. Amazing. And by the way, if Swack Props is watching, Cal, if you're watching, I think you should make Tommy's sketchbook.
Tommy's sketchbook. Hey, Alexander Wilson's here. He says, it ain't over, Rob. Also, that eyeliner is hitting on Elizabeth. Also, when are we going to see Sirens on WINEning?
Sirens?
The movie Sirens. That would be.
I haven't seen that either.
We could watch that. That's pretty good. I don't have Sirens. We'll get it.
We could rent it.
Now, I have to say, there's one thing that I would like to talk about this movie that on a personal note. Mark Romanek, who's one of the great music video directors, I think he won 3 Grammy Awards for directing music videos. He has not directed a movie since he made this film. He made Static in '85 with Keith Gordon.
Wow.
He made 1 Hour Photo that he also wrote with Robin Williams, and he made this.
Well, what about Ex Machina?
No, that's Ex Machina is Alex Garland. This is Mark
You're
Romanek
talking
who
about-
directed.
Oh, right, okay.
I often think,
Wow.
because people say to me, "Oh, Rob, you only made one movie that it was not
But
quite."
this movie was so wonderful.
I know,
and
and he was going to direct The Wolfman, but they weren't going to give him enough of a budget. It kills me. It
Wow.
kills me to think that Mark Romanek made this movie,
His directing
and he
was
hasn't made another film in 10 years.
wonderful. That's mind blowing.
And I wish, if in my life I'm still out there
We should
fighting the
make a
good
movie
fight.
with him.
If I could make a movie like this, if I could make one more movie and it was anything like this,
Look, I give it 4 glasses, and I don't give out 4 glasses very easily.
I too, I have to say that even though who said it? Who said? Hang on. Who said? Sebastian. Sebastian, I agree with you.
That's my favorite male name, by the way.
The
Sebastian.
book is an incredible work. I mean, he's an incredible novelist. But I love this film. I love everything about it. I think it's a stunning achievement. It is not easy to do what they did in this film. And I think that
Yeah.
I too give this movie, I give it 4 glasses of wine. But I know this is one of those movies that I love, but I would always recommend it to only a certain kind of person,
that's
because there's a lot of people that won't stick with it.
They won't love this film.
And yeah, they won't.
You either love it or you don't.
Yeah, yeah. You either love it or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, it's a tough watch.
It is. Americans especially, they love happy endings. This does not have a happy ending.
Yeah. No. Well, in a way, you could say that Kathy and Tommy finally consummated that love. And even though it was fleeting in the civilization that they live in.
It's still not a happy ending.
But is it a happy ending for anyone?
Well, all complete. I agree. Like, I love this film, and I love the tragedy of it, and I love the conclusion that she comes to at the end. But I'm saying, for the average American, this is not something that they would enjoy, because American films always have a happy ending.
Well, Casablanca doesn't have a happy ending.
Okay, but that's an older film. What about newer films? Don't they all have happy endings? Name one that does not. A contemporary film that does not have a happy ending.
Blade Runner 2049 doesn't have a happy ending.
Okay, what else? You can't think of any. Because Americans want happy endings. But that's not what life is.
Well, all right. Well, we have to bring this episode. Episode 44 of Whining About Movies, Elizaviews. Never Let Me Go.
Never Let Me Go.
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the Richard for being a great moderator. Thank you very much, the Richard. And please, everyone, go to... Oh, wait a minute. Eric Gant is here. Good evening, folks. Would you consider The Fisher King to be a romantic film worthy of Elizabeth?
I have not seen it.
Oh, The Fisher Kings. Well, we already did Brazil. It's another Terry Gilliam movie.
Oh.
The Fisher King is... I have The Fisher King.
Well, we should do it.
The Fisher King is great.
Somebody,
excuse me.
Richard's busy, but can somebody write all these down, because I won't remember.
Well, you read the chats. They're all in the chats. The thing,
Yeah, I'm not going to remember.
Well, anyway, hang on.
Not the tips. I can't see the tips when I'm reading the chats.
Well, okay. Well, Alexander Wilson says, you don't have sirens on Physical. The nudity is A+. I was like 10 when I first saw it. My mom is like, what are you watching?
Oh.
Y'all would love it together.
We were on a streak of watching films with boobs in them. And
we
now,
gotta watch boobs.
Now there's no boobs.
Well, we should watch a European softcore movie, like an Emmanuel. No, The Image would be pretty good. A little Radley Metzger action. I wouldn't show you something objectionable. We'd have to watch something that people would like.
Yeah. There's only 70 people here. I don't think anyone was interested in it. Like I said, Americans don't like...
Hey, look, you can't
tragic
always have
films.
Hits. You can't take it personally.
But this film is a 4-glass.
4-glass.
It's a 4-glass film.
It's a banger.
Come on.
Twins, the new trend. It's a banger. I love this movie. Anyway, I was thanking the people that make this show possible.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank Greg Smith. I want to thank Haynock, if he ever is here. All the people that make the show possible. But mostly the Richard, who's always here. And if you go to the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page or the Whining About Movies Facebook page, the Richard is always running some kind of watch parties. And they go deep, deep, deep into the evening.
Yes.
And
we need more moderators. So there's a strict test to see if you will qualify.
There is? Mike Bodden does have a script. There is one.
I don't know.
There's
a screening. But we do need moderators, because poor Richard, the Richard has a lot on him.
Yeah, and I've been delving into politics a little too much. So
you have, and the chats have been going crazy.
Chats are going crazy. Well, anyway, this brings an end to Elizaviews episode number 44.
What's our next movie?
Well, we're doing Passengers tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Passengers
tomorrow. We're doing Space Rape. I know people are going to be like, are you making fun of rape? No,
Don't call it that.
You called it that. I'm only calling it that because people said it. I don't think it's that, but there is a big thing. Tomorrow night we're coming back. By the way,
Tomorrow
Chris
night
Pratt and J Law.
What, 6 or 7?
7.
At 7, Passengers.
To complete sci-fi week, to complete romance.
Yes.
A lot of people don't like Passengers.
Well, you'll learn tomorrow what our opinions are.
You'll learn what our opinions are.
You might be surprised.
The production was designed by the great Guy Hendricks Dies, who I work with on Superman Returns, who I love to death. And J Law, which means Dieter Bastian's going to love that episode. And Claude has already said that we could talk about it for 10 minutes, and if we don't burn it to the ground, what are we going to say?
You might be surprised as to what we say about Passengers.
Uh-huh. It's true.
It's true.
Hope to see you tomorrow. And what do we say?
Everyone you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen.
Ooh, you did it right that time. Nicely done.
I struggle with that.
But you got it right. That was amazing, babe. Give me a kiss. Come on, baby. What's up? You got it right. All right. Anyway. And?
Have a better night.
Have a better...
Or, as B.L. Alley would say, writer B.L. Alley would say, have a buttered knife.
It's pretty funny. That was pretty
so funny.
All right. Thanks for being here. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hit like, hit subscribe.
See you tomorrow.
Cheers.